Okay, so this speech tries to give a definition. A few minutes ago, Mary Dyson tried to explain that she used typography in a loosely manner, but I think it will be a great contribution if we could define typography once and for all. So, and also my definition will be useful to define the category of typographic object. What is a typographic object and what is not? This speech started out as a poster, and I'm glad I want you to see it because it gives the whole picture. I will define typography on the basis of 4 statements, and then each statement becomes a module, which I will define as well, all defined in the fashion of a list of statements with a code which allow me later to make connections in a hypertextual way, or if you want mind mapping as mind mapping. No? So I can make connections because the definitions allow me to do it. So why do we care? Why do we need to define what is a typographic object? Why do we care whether hand lettering in a shop window is not typography, or what difference does it make? Well, the need is not practical. The need is theoretical. So I think that my proposal can be a scaffold for typographic research. And here in this conference in 2022 at Palazzo, Nina Norder was invited to give a speech, and she presented more or less the content of this book, and she mixed under the term typography, typographical text and handwritten text. According to her, calligraph, handwritten, and typographic writing share common semiotic principles. So what I say is only this: what may work for multimodal studies may not work when we want to focus specifically on typography. So no, I don't agree with Minnesota. So typography is a form of expression, and communication, and it is a semiotic system with its own attributes and resources, and its definition reveals four modules. It is a form of writing, T1, made with a typeface or typefaces, T2, in a complex composition, T3, and with editing conventions, T4. So this way, we can say an entrance ticket, it has writing, typeface, composition, editing conventions. It is a typographic product, but not only books, magazines, and newspapers are typographic. Many other products are typographic. Whereas a diagram without any kind of text is it may be a diagram or a blueprint. Let's say a blueprint without any kind of text. It will be a blueprint, not typography. So writing is formal expression and communication, which consists of the graphic embodiment, that is visual or of linguistic or abstract statements, done by means of a repertoire of specialized and arbitrary marks, let's call them graphs, and the code for their combination. Item 3, in the medium or support, physical or digital, which allows for durability and decontextualization. And item 4, with a strategy of occupation of the support area, namely linearity and directionality. And item 5, whose conventions are consolidated diachronically in a social community. writing can be orthographic or non-orthographic. Mr. Dimitrios Orekis is not here, but he would agree with me. He said writing is the representation of linguistic statements. I say linguistic and abstract. To me, mathematics is writing. So Jack Goody, the anthropologist, speaks of three modes beyond continued text, which are list, table, and formula. We could add maybe diagram, I don't know, but I see that writing is not only linguistic. Besides, leaving out abstract statements would leave out symbols, would leave out numbers and figures and expressive expression, numeric expressions, and would leave out all notation or some scientific notations. Here is a table. So the table, well, you can read geography. Then what is a typeface? Well, a typeface is a repertoire of graphic shapes, here we call them glyphs, intended to cover one or more writing systems and other areas of written communication. Endowed with unifying design features, phenomena we call serialization, which are recursively used in text. So this is recursivity. And item 4, which are encoded through a digital font format. Here I could have mentioned other technologies, movable type, phototype setting, etc. I chose to mention the last one. The difference between handwritten and typographic writing would be, as Frank E. Blokland says, that in handwriting, letter shapes have a lot of freedom, whereas in movable type and later technologies, there is the notion of a rectangle. In our current digital technology, the rectangle can be overcome, can be surpassed, but not with many freedom. So serialization, I said unifying design features. Serialization comes about in grades. It's very strong in a single font. It's very strong in regular. When we go to a family, it's not so strong, and when we go to a super family or multi-family, the serialization is not so prominent, not so visible. The design, the graphical traits which allow us to identify a face as a certain specific typeface would be vertical axis, thick thin contrast, X height, presence absence of serifs, and openness and closeness, which is, you can see here the difference in openness and closeness in all those letters. Yeah. Those are the basic graphic traits. Then recursivity. Recursivity is the fact that when we use a font, we use its glyphs recursively. So it's what Jürgen Spitzmüller, I don't know if it's here, he says in that very good article approaching typographic variation. In typography, we use identical tokens of the same type, we could say of the same glyph. That's not a shame. The idea is when we use a glyph, we don't use an ad hoc shape. We use a previously established, the previous design shape. Well, what is composition? Composition would be the arrangement of textual matter, sometimes supported by visual, and in digital products, why not oral matter, in a support area, which can be physical or digital. Item 2, from which an informative structure emerges. I put speak about Rudolf Ahrenheim. Item 3. In a complex technology, using a complex technology in order to create digital or physical product. And item 4, to fixate and convey the content so that it can be read and interpreted. This is my interpretation of Rudolf Ahrenheim's book, The Power of the Center. These are the visual energy points, the focus of visual energy, according to the content of Rudolf Ahrenheim. The reading, the visual energy goes top to down in normal circumstances. Then in composition, we may have juxtaposed units, that is paragraph plus paragraph plus paragraph plus paragraph. That is not, that is continued text, so just juxtaposed units, units which need to be identifiable. If a paragraph cannot be identified, it doesn't exist because it is defined by graphical attributes, graphical attributes. The second situation will be having main text and footnotes. This is hierarchical. Then a block of image plus caption would be nearly independent unit in the reading path. And ultimately, units such as a table of contents would be navigational. It's not integrated in the intellectual discourse in a word. It's navigational, same as writing text at the top of pages. Then I go to the editing conventions. Editing conventions, before giving the definition, we'll explain the main groups. Main groups are users of italics, users of bold, small caps, and some users of quotes as alternatives to italics. Another group would be uppercase and lowercase, that is obviously in those writing systems which use those differentiations. I'm aware of that. Third group, figures or numbers and numeric expressions, users of numbers or maybe the spelled out words. Another group would be punctuation, macro phenomenon of punctuation. Another group would be abbreviations, initialisms, and acronyms. Initialisms, acronyms. Another group would be symbols. Symbols, many times, manuals of style include symbols inside the back of abbreviations. They are not abbreviations. They are independent entities, independent of any language. They are abstract in nature, so symbols apart. And then I can define editing conventions. Editing conventions are a set of conventions or maybe only practices, not necessarily a convention, chosen by the authors, and subsidiarily by professionals who assist them in production, but the ultimate decision falls in the hands of the authors, which are consolidated in the division of publications. Item 4, in a community of language and writing, because the same language may be used, for instance. We have here in Amazigh, the Berber language, can be written in Latin script, Arabic, and Ifinac. So editing conventions are dependent on a specific writing system. They are not transversal. So, and item 5, which enrich, which shape the text in order to add to it nuance, precision, complexity, and maybe only informational structural value. Editing conventions belong with typography more than anything else and Malcolm B. Parks, in this very known book, Positive Effect, explains that printers multiplicated text, and in doing so, models of usage got disseminated. So it's thanks to typography that conventions consolidate, evolve, maybe are lost because they are not useful, they are not liked. So it's that's why I think that editing conventions belong with typography and not with handwriting. Obviously, when we wrote 60 years ago with typewriter, we used convention, we used punctuation, uppercase initials, we used many conventions, but it is thanks to typography that conventions develop and consolidate. Then, obviously, I see two different natures. Orthography rules or spelling rules are of different nature than editing conventions. I see this. In 5 vectors or oppositions 1 to 1. Okay, how am I going? 5 minutes. Okay. So the first axis would be the kinds of writing. So orthography rules are valid for every kind of writing, even chiseled on steel, whereas editing conventions are applied properly to typographic text. Second vector would be orthographic rules create a binary paradigm, correct and correct, accepted, not accepted, whereas editing conventions are fundamentally optional, not always, but fundamentally optional. Third vector would be that spelling rules are paradigmatic in the sense that they don't need any written text to exist themselves as rules, no? Whereas editing conventions, they are only something when they exist already in texts. That is why they call them concrete. And spelling rules or orthographic rules are created or edited or formulated by a body with a prescriptive role or some institution, some publishing company with analog role, whereas editing conventions are in the hands of those responsible for the signification of texts. And lastly, spelling rules are issued. It's not a clear-cut distinction, but they are issued in a moment in time, whereas editing conventions are consolidated through tradition. Obviously, I accept that there is an intersection between orthography and editing conventions. Some conventions are so ingrained in our writing. We start the text with initial uppercase. We finish direct interrogative with the closing interrogation mark. These practices are so ingrained that can be included in spelling compendiums of spelling rules. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't negate its nature as different from orthography. And Susan Walker asked whether spell manuals were prescriptive or descriptive. I think it's a valid question. And even though users may see many conventions as yes/no directives, I believe that doesn't impugn, that doesn't detract the nature of the different nature of the two kinds of. Maybe some editing conventions can have linguistic relevance. For instance, state versus state with initial uppercase, but some other no, they don't have it. Here we have bibliographic reference. So small caps for surnames, title of the article between quotes, those conventions are purely structural. There's no linguistic relevance there. So the lexematic and the syntactic information is not altered by those conventions. They are purely structural. And I authors can always model with message. They can do it through writing, typeface, composition, editing conventions. Thank you.
Very much for that talk, Pere. Please.
Be gentle. I expect I would want this to become a scaffold for research. For instance, let's say someone wants to do research about newspapers as typographic products in Scandinavian countries, first half of the 20th century. Okay, writing, typeface, composition, editing conventions. That will be complete. A complete study and touching on the whole phenomenon of typography.
Is that connected to your use of the word organic when you talk about an organic?
Organic, yes.
Is that the totality, the completeness that you read?
Yes, and other branches such as production techniques, for instance, or many things about typefaces, how they are constructed, how they are coded, the engineering behind the typeface. Those go after. So my scaffold would be only the generic base of those specific parameters.
Thinking newspaper is a very good example because most of the structure, the format is already given by the editors, not by the designers.
Newspapers, yes, newspapers are in the middle of books and dictionaries. Dictionaries are read unit by unit, small units, and newspapers are as well not read continually, but they are composed in a rigid hierarchy from front page to the end page, the back page, and each page has hierarchy, and we don't read them continually. We read what we want to read. No? So newspapers and magazines are in the middle of books, which is a long reading path, and dictionaries or encyclopedias. Yes, and yes, typographic Robert.
Mary,
Yes, it's a bit predictable given what I was talking about, but how would how people perceive the typography fit into this? Because I'm coming from psychology, and I always felt that students shouldn't be evaluating the visual material itself, the visual material itself, but how it is perceived by readers. There might be a slight mismatch. So there certainly is many examples of the object visual perception.
But don't you think that visual perception is influenced by writing, typeface, composition, and editing conventions?
Yes.
No.
Right.
Not right. Like that was a serious issue if you including writing in anything typography. But the author
do you know
is a bit assumes that he writes or has any bigger point of view?
but without writing, you cannot build anything typographic.
How do you write?
No, but that's it. That's the journal. Do you know typography papers?
I'm
Journal.
aware.
Number two, there was a great discussion between Nordics and Robin Kinross, and one of them said, no, typography is not writing. You don't describe.
Yeah.
It's a deferred. So it's whereas the other one, I think Kinross said writing is only describing. So a direct experience.
But instead of Kinross's thing.
So,
You put your size quote instead of Kinross's.
yes. Yes, I gave. Yes, typography is here understood as writing with prefabricated letters. There's also an American United States researcher, Kirschenbaum. Kirschenbaum has a book, and he speaks of, I don't know the word in English, divert. So directly inscribing is one thing. With our hand, chiseling, whereas typography or typewriting would be something what divert. So it's not so unique. So I understand, but without written material, there's no typography.
I won't be super kind. Your whole argument that there is that graphic structure, there's a graphic differentiation, this proves Nordside's point. You yourself have given a framework for why Nordside's point is wrong.
Why? I don't
Because you're talking that typography involves decisions, processes that are way more complex in their framework of thinking about the structure of the text than Nordside, which just thinks of some formalized writing. That's one objection. The second is that, and I say this with full conscience of the posters, research student here, I find it, I have objections to review typography on any level outside the material and personal context in which it happens. Somebody uses stuff or a system, and then newspapers are not an environment. It comes down. You use Encopy or you use Hermes or you use whatever, and this tells you what you can do and how you're going to do it. You're in a print shop, somebody has allowed you to have certain type cases, which determine your practices, what you can do, human punctuation and so on. There's a commercial environment, there's a social environment. I think it's,
But,
you look at things separated from that stuff.
But the same way a typeface is a way out for writing, it's an outlet for writing.
No, sir, it's a way to make money.
But that comes later. That comes later. I could design a typeface without selling, and it would be useful for me.
And it's the same thing as you doing copywriting. A typeface in any meaningful sense, which is as a part of a chain of production and existence or so on, is a way to make money by enabling books to be produced cheaper than
Let's say semiotically.
Yeah.
Typography, I said that is a semiotic system with its own attributes and resources. Typography is an outlet for some message which is written. The message is written.
Pragmatic bit. The stuff.
Okay, pragmatics, but the message is written, and it's laid out using all the resources of typography. So
Which are determined by materiality,
if
by
you
convention.
you want to print images, and you print images, you don't do typography. When you print text, you do typography. Typography is the area of knowledge, the activity of producing typographic objects, and those typographic objects themselves. Because terminologically, we always deal with different layers. No? So typography is the area of knowledge, the activity, and the product. The product, which is basically mainly written and sometimes supported by visual matter or oral matter, like in cinema. So credits in a film, it's typography.
What is calligraphy and typography? How do you define the?
Not the same technology, not the same technology for typefaces, not the same technology for composition, for product. No. Laying out the page, when we lay out the page, we use Microsoft Word. Or InDesign, we don't use our hand, we don't use speak. So it's different technology, it's a different paradigm. Typography is the most evolved and capable of all kinds of writing. Typography is this spectacular manifestation of the technology applied to writing. Not to,
Well, we should let our speaker have the last word, so thank you very much.